So we're going to go over the rise and fall of Zombies creative director Jimmy Zielinski. Jimmy Zielinski was an animator and former creative design director for the Nazi Zombies mode at Treyarch. He was a member of the original team behind the Nazi Zombies concept in Call of Duty World at War. He was then responsible for the zombie experience following World at War in Black Ops 1 and part of Black Ops 2. Now for Jimmy, he probably had never expected the mode to take off like it did after Nocturne and Toten, where you would have to make 8+ maps afterwards. And some people miss Jimmy, like the way he did things, but it was ultimately his decisions toward the end of his run that really caused the separation from him and Treyarch. Now, obviously, as we know, World at War was the first game to involve the Zombies game mode, where Jimmy was the lead director for the game mode, starting off with when they made Nocturne and Toten, where him and his team could not have imagined what this brought for the community and how he was eventually greenlighted to make another map, which eventually would be Verrückt. And Verrückt came out with some new features such as traps and perk machines such as Quick Revive, Juggernog, Double Tap, and Speed Cola, which are the original 4 perks. Now, Shino Numa, which was right afterwards, then brought in one of the easiest high round maps still to this day, with the addition of the Wonder Waff and the new enemy, the Hellhound, that would reward a player after completing the round by rewarding them with a max ammo. And a follow-up with DLC 4, which was supposed to be Kino der Toten before it was delayed to then be finished for the launch map of Black Ops 1. Instead, we got Derice, which was just fine for what it was, as it's one of the highest points for Zombies in the very beginning, with it adding Pack-a-Punch. It was such an iconic map. People loved to sit on the catwalk. It's a great time for everybody to look back, and it's still fun to go back and play to this day. And things are high as they could possibly be for Jimmy and his team. Now off World at War being followed up with what some people would believe, a very underrated zombie experience with Black Ops 1, with a lot of people who enjoyed Black Ops 1. And with the first map we're going to get is the greatest zombie map of all time, Kino der Toten, which brought in the Thunder Gun. And one of the harder maps in Zombies, which was 5, which brought in the Winter's Howl for the Wonder Weapon, which was underwhelming, but it brought in like the Pentagon Thief and had a bonfire sail. And to my knowledge, I believe that's the only time the bonfire sail has been a drop in the game. And then when it comes to DLC maps, Jimmy and his team kept up being a little more innovative, expanding what Zombies could be. With Ascension, they added the first Easter egg. They added the monkeys that would remove perks if you were allowed to get into the machines. It also added stamina and PhD flopper. Call of the Dead added Deadshot, and it added a fully roaming boss that was permanent to the map, but once you defeated him, it will reward the player with a free perk and a death machine. And eventually it would return after, I believe it was 2 rounds. He would come back. And it also introduced weather changes to introduce the Pack-a-Punch, whether if it was sunny or if it was foggy. Also, rest in peace, Georgia Romero. Then Shangri-La added female zombies, and it was one of the most visually appealing maps. It introduced multiple boss zombies like the Napalm and the Shrieker, which would blind you, and the Napalm would create a pool of fire from when it exploded. Although it was one of the hardest Easter eggs, complete Pack-a-Punch with 4 players was impossible unless you had 4 friends. And the Easter egg is one of the hardest. And then we had a Moon, which came out, which added Mule Kick. It also added the low gravity and the oxygen system. And it was a fan favorite Easter egg, blowing up the Earth. It was a very fun ending for a DLC 4 Easter egg. Following Black Ops 1, heading into Black Ops 2, the hype for Zombies was very, very high. And Jimmy and his team were prepared for their biggest launch yet in November 2012, dropping Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 launched on November 12, 2012 with 4 maps, 3 barebone maps with Bus Depot, Farm, and Town. And then you have the big project they had been working on for the past couple years, which did not go the way they expected. It was Transit, and it had a lot of backlash with the community. The community was not happy, did not like to wait that long for what they got. And this really had placed Jimmy on his hot seat. So Jimmy and his crew had to regroup, and they began working on their first DLC pack, Revolution, that included Die Rise. And with the hype that had died down, you can notice that it wasn't the same with the trailer for Transit had 9 million views, and then you can see the trailer for Die Rise only at 4 million views. But either way, Die Rise launched January 29, 2013. Around a 2-month wait, and the wait was not worth it for many players. Some players did enjoy the verticality that the map had brought, but others felt very disappointed, with this map felt either overwhelming for some people with the amount of parts and the jumping and the fall damage you could take, and that simply some parts weren't finished, with parts of the map being empty or having nothing to do with anything. The map felt very maze-like, and you were getting lost. And a community was very pissed off with how PhD Flopper is getting teased, which really could have made this map way better. And trolling the community with PhD Flopper in a map where you take a lot of fall damage, where Jimmy was probably already on the hot seat, he probably set it on fire himself with this. Yeah, with Jimmy on the hot seat going to DLC 2, which would be Jimmy Zielinski's last map that he worked on as the lead director for Treyarch, many believed almost no matter what he did, he probably would be gone anytime soon. But that didn't stop Jimmy and his team from, working and creating, for some people, one of the best zombie maps ever, which was Buried. And Buried dropped July 2nd, 2013. Buried is a fan favorite map still, later to this day, 10 years later, and many maps aren't as considered to have even been close to how fun Buried can be. I mean, some people complain it's too easy, but you have the bank, the Mark II, the Paralyzer, you have the witches with free perks. It's an all-around fun map, but it would be the last map he worked on as lead director. Now, meanwhile, while this is all going on, Jason Blundell and his team were traveling to San Francisco, visiting the Alcatraz prison, preparing for DLC 3. And they were creating one of the most unique zombies maps the community had ever seen with Mob of the Dead. And when it released, Jimmy eventually afterwards, with the success that the map had brought, Jimmy was then replaced by Jason Blundell, losing his lead role as the creative director for Black Ops 2 Zombies. And eventually in December 2014, Jimmy Zielinski left Treyarch Studios. He is now a lead animator over at Ubisoft. Although BO2 was not welcomed, Jimmy did so much for Zombies, never will be forgotten for what he did for the community and how he worked us up from the World at War system to where we are now. He is part of that, no matter how tough BO2 was or how some maps may have been. He got us off and really brought the innovation that the maps still have to this day with the OG perks, traps. He can never be forgotten for what he did for the game mode itself. Also, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Please, please, please. Mwah. I'll give you a kiss. Mwah. Mwah. Good night kisses, everyone. Mwah.